Actually, it wasn't even all that long ago that I've reviewed the Lenovo X1 Carbon G4, but I have to admit, in many ways, the G5 makes that one already look quite dated, because they definitely have improved it in many aspects. Which ones exactly those are, we will see in this review, and how good it is in general. So, let's switch to the design and build quality. Let's talk about the design here first. You can already see it looks very stylish, minimalistic, and clean. It is also very thin and with 1140 grams, super lightweight. In terms of this finish though, even though I like the feel of it, I'm not quite so sure about the looks, because as you can see, it attracts a lot of dirt and fingerprints and so on, and it could look a little bit nasty over time. But that's pretty much the only aspect that I could complain about in terms of design. But in terms of build quality, there is at least two things that I would like to mention, because first of all, we have a little bit like hard rubberized feet that don't protect it from sliding. And the second thing is, if I want to pick up the device, I don't want to hear this, because the lid on its own doesn't flex and it feels very solid. Also, as you can see here, the top lid flexes just a little bit, especially since it's so thin, but this should have been stabilized a little bit more so this doesn't feel so cheap, because the device itself doesn't feel cheap at all. Now, in terms of port selection though, here very good, because as you can see here, we have 2 times Thunderbolt 3. This one is for charging. We have USB 3.0, we have full-size HDMI, and with the second USB Type A, you don't even need dongles if you don't want to use them, because you can still use your monitor or something like that. Here we have the port if you want to use Ethernet with the included adapter. You can also see the top and bottom mounted firing speakers. There is not really a cutout to open it, but you don't need it due to the shape, which is absolutely fine. Headphone jack, ventilation, and like I said, the second USB Type A along with the Kensington lock. And what you will also see on the back is the SD card and SIM card tray. A little bit of a weird position, but if you don't use it maybe all that often, it's definitely not in the way. So yeah, I definitely like that a lot, especially since it feels so compact overall and super lightweight. It's a very portable machine and it feels really nice. And what I maybe like the most is that it can easily be opened one-handed. This is a big bonus in my book. Now, let's talk about the inside here. Absolutely the same finish, so it will get a little bit dirty as well, but it feels very nice and it doesn't really get all that warm at all. Now about the keyboard, I could pretty much sum it up as being fantastic, pretty much one of the best on the market, because we have lots and lots of key travel. It is also so nicely dampened and the feedback is absolutely amazing. We have 2 levels of backlight. All the shortcuts here are very conveniently placed, and you have the ones that you actually need. 2 things that I could complain about is here the little bit cramped layout for the cursor buttons, and I would wish for the function key to be switched out with the control key. But that's the only thing, because the general layout for typing is absolutely perfect, and this is one of the very best typing experience that you can have. If you want the track pointer, this is still available and it's not in the way if you don't want it. The trackpad itself, I have to say, works out really nice, but let's check the fingerprint reader first. As you can see here, it's very reliable. It needs a little bit of some thinking second, but then it works out great. And the trackpad, great surface, because it's just about grippy enough so you have the precision, but it's not slippery at all, and it feels also good. In terms of size, it's good. We have the buttons here for the track pointer, by the way, and of course for the keys itself. But I have to say, the keyboard, the trackpad, I will give it a quite good, maybe just not quite a very good, because it sometimes feels a little bit delayed. But in overall, all gestures get accepted very well, and it is still very good, but overall quite good, but just for me. Now, let's get a little bit more into the display. Let me zoom in so you can see it a little bit better, and you will also see the morpher effect, because my cam doesn't like that so much. But let's talk about some of the qualities here first. When it comes to the display, check the values that I measured. We have 95% of sRGB with 74% of Adobe RGB. Maybe not perfect for someone who wants to make photo work or something like that, but I don't think the businessman will do. But then you will see the gamma with 2.2 is pretty much perfect. The gray values were fine. It's just not the very brightest one with about 300 lux. I actually measured a little bit less with my lux meter. Therefore, the black level is very good. Contrast is still solid. The white point was a little bit on the colder side. But let's get to what I actually think about it, because this here is the 1080p version. And it's just not quite as impressive as the 1440p version that I had on the G4. But I can tell you, this should be actually an advantage over the 1440p for many business users, because you don't have any scaling issues, so legacy apps will work better. It is still sharp enough, just not quite as impressive. Therefore, you will get also better battery life. So actually, this could be better. Like I said, the white a little bit colder out of the box, not a problem. Black though, super uniform, no backlight bleed. And colors, due to being a matte panel, just maybe don't seem all that vibrant, all that vivid, but they definitely do a solid job. And everything like videos and so on looks still nice. So I would say For the mainstream user, the 1440p panel would be preferred because it just looks a little bit nicer. But for the business user, I think the 1080p makes more sense in many ways. Now, let's talk about the speakers here and check the demo. I guess one thing is quite obvious, especially if you have it on a desk due to the bottom front mounted firing speakers. They can reflect and they sound actually really good. I have to say they improved that quite a lot from the last one because now it's definitely loud enough and it sounds also quite nice. We have, even though maybe that's not all that important, smart audio software, but you can't really adjust all that much here. So as you can see, very limited options, but at least you have something there. But I can tell you that the sound is actually really good, makes me happy, and the same goes also for the quite good headphone jack. Now I would say let's go into the performance, and you can already see the amazing values of the SSD. 3 gigabytes per second of read speeds and still great for write speeds, even though with about 12 seconds the cold boot could have been a little bit faster. I don't think I have to show off that scrolling in Chrome works super buttery smooth, absolutely a top experience. And what I want to actually go down to just in terms of performance, it is not really meant for what? Video editing and photo editing, which I don't think the business user will do, because all daily tasks, I think this one will handle just well. I think even in some ways the i7 is a little bit overkill, 16 gigs of RAM, but what you can also do is run very heavy images with a lot of background tasks without any issues, and all daily tasks worked just fine. But what I have to mention though is that it will throttle, and I will talk a little bit more about that in the heat and noise part, because it will pretty much on load instantly throttle. But I actually don't see this to be an issue for the businessman, because I don't think you will buy something as lightweight, as portable, and as thin like this to do video rendering or something like that, where you should get in trouble with in terms of performance. But let's actually talk already about the heat and noise. And I will start off with the noise demo once again. Okay, you've heard the fan, and the thing is that if I'm in my living room or everywhere else where I tested it, not in the studio where it's like 5 or 6 degrees at least hotter, the fan pretty much never turned on. I also didn't really hear the coil whine. It is mostly noticeable when you open the device for the first few seconds, but not something that in normal use was ever audible to me. I really need, or I want to hear it, then I can, but I don't see this to be an issue. And I have to say the fans, even on maximum volume, which is pretty much, there is just one fan level, because it pretty much instantly ramps up because it also throttles, but this level stays very low, very subtle. But this also brings me to the temperatures, because let's cover those. The average temperature on idle for me was 45 degrees with 62 of maximum CPU temperature. On the bottom, we got around here 31 degrees up to maybe 36, more closer towards the middle where the CPU is. On idle, on load, things change a little bit, because it throttled down to, even though that's maybe not proper throttling, to 2.8 to 2.9 gigahertz. And then the whole device, of course, got a little bit warmer. Still not maybe all that uncomfortable warm, but I don't think you will render a video and have it on your lap. So I don't see heat as an issue. But then I have to say the CPU temps got up to at least a maximum of 79 with an average of 75. Now, the problem is, I think they could have gone a little bit hotter if they wanted to not throttle it so much. But like I said, I don't see this to be an issue on a business device, but it does it, and it is something we have to just point out. Now, battery. Full charge takes about 2 hours and 15. Absolutely totally fine for the battery size of 57 watt hours. And I have to say, this time, I think compared to the last time, especially with the 1440p display, this battery life is great, because what I got was a minimum of about 6 hours with quite heavy use and so on, with also about 10 hours of use, with an average, I would say, of about 8 hours, I would say. This is just me though, and I have to say this once again. I turn off all power saving features and I use the brightness of 80%, because the display doesn't get all that bright and gets bright quite late. So if you are a normal user, I would expect you to get even 10 hours on average, because with those measurements and so on, yeah, they claim even more so, but I would say 8 for me is already great, and everyone else should at least get 1-2 hours more, and then, yeah, Absolutely great. Software, not really any need to talk a lot about it, because you get the standard Lenovo apps, you get of course the business support, you get like I showed the audio software, but that's not all. That's something important to talk about, and that's why I would say let's talk about the pros and cons here. Here I want to call out the very good port selection, because my main important thing here is that you can use it without dongles if you don't want to use them. We also have a very good build quality. It is extremely light, and what I like, it can be opened one-handed. A reliable fingerprint reader, even though it needs like a second. An absolutely fantastic, best-in-class keyboard, a really good trackpad, and the track pointer is still present for those who wanted that. The display is still quite good overall, even maybe better for a business device in general, because you don't need it to be color accurate or something like that. Quite good speaker, definitely loud enough this time, and it sounds good. Top daily use performance, it is pretty much silent in normal use. Coil whine is mostly inaudible. The fan always stays subtle and never gets loud, and we have great battery life. Now what's not that great, as I already showed, the chassis creaks a little bit in the middle, slightly cramped keyboard layout. The display could be a little bit brighter. Under load, it throttles though pretty much immediately. Thermals and cooling, in my opinion, could be improved for sure. It's maybe not 100% stable during load, because actually 2 times I got it to crash, and it is quite expensive. But in the end, with all those improvements, I still think it is just more than just a legit successor, because they made it even more lightweight. They made it more portable. They added some ports, definitely made it more future-proof. With the fingerprint reader, the really nice 1080p display, you will get a great experience. The speaker got better, performance maybe not so much, but it also stays very quiet all the time, and the battery life noticeably improved. So all in all, it's definitely a great device, and I could, without any issues, recommend it. But of course, I have to mention it throttles and so on, so it's definitely not something for someone who uses it under load all the time. Then you should look for something else. But if you want something super portable, high quality, great for business use, very flexible, then you will definitely get this. And I definitely get all the praise about these devices. It is highly great. It's of course not perfect, but for the target audience, I think they did an absolutely fantastic job. And that's where I want to leave it. If you like this, thumbs up, maybe a subscription, and leave me any comments down there below. Okay, until next time.